Ledger's new service that could affect you. Bitcoin Miami wraps up for another year, and Tether says it'll buy more Bitcoin. We discuss all this and more in today's Collective Shift weekly recap. Actionable insights and a breakdown into the crypto market, all in under 30 minutes. As always, we'll start with the market update. Matt, what does the market look like this week?
Thanks, Leon. Market looks pretty flat in crypto at least. We've got Bitcoin down 2%, ETH down 1%, and overall crypto market a bit under $1.2 trillion US, where it feels like it has been for quite some time. In terms of the macro side of things, big news last week was the performance of the US stock market, which continued higher. And we've seen that correlation with crypto really weaken as the year's sort of gone on. So we even got the likes of the NASDAQ at a 13-month high. It's up 33% from its low in October last year. And the whole index is now just 16% off of all-time highs. The likes of Apple, almost at all-time highs, and Microsoft as well, a bit behind, about 5% off all-time highs. So things are certainly recovering for probably the biggest tech giants out there, but certainly got a lot of lag in other areas of the economy when you're talking about just performance of stocks and whatnot. The biggest thing, as we've been covering for a few weeks now, and I think members got this from me a couple of weeks ago, was the business headlines are basically all talking about this upcoming deadline for the debt ceiling in the US. It's happened 78 times before where they've adjusted the debt ceiling, and it looks like it's going to be the 79th time. All indications are that negotiations are sort of stalling and a bit tricky at the moment, but when push comes to shove, it's in neither party's best interest for the government to go fail in and not be able to pay off its debts. So
print more money.
Yeah, eventually, they will agree on something. I'm sure of it. But hey, I'm no political expert. There may be occasions where they may not, but chances are that they will. So that continues to dominate and really drown out any other big developments in the economy and whatnot. So that's a wrap for this week.
Yeah, and something has also been going sideways for Bitcoin and Ethereum so far. I think we haven't had much price action, but as we always say at Collective Shift here, we're more about the long-term perspective of Bitcoin and Ethereum. So this is something throughout the week that's even hard to see. So tech stocks going up, Bitcoin, Ethereum going sideways, but we're still around. We'll move on to our next topic. Bitcoin Miami did just happen. Nothing spectacular came out of it. Did any of you guys manage to catch this? I know attendance was down.
I just saw the total attendance as you talked about. There was, I think, 35,000 coming in 2022 last year, which was coming off that bull market. And I guess everybody didn't really understand how, I think, deep of a bear market it was going to head into. So I think, looking there, people were saying 12,000 people were attending, and from all, a lot of the people that I was following, and you just reported similar things, that it was a bit of not much of a ghost town, but it was definitely attendance was lagging previous bull markets and the last year. But even I think the big takeaway was I didn't see too many real big announcements that came out of it. It was a bit small, bit of a lot of you've heard it before, and a lot of big names that even some presidential candidates were there, which I thought was pretty notable.
That's right. Yeah, I did manage to catch that. I was like, I don't want Bitcoin to get politicized, but I think it will go down that route later on down sometime. And to speak about the half attendance, I do think, the bear market has been very strong on people. They look at the cost and they say, are they actually announcing anything significant? Probably not. So then they decide not to go. But anyway, we'll move on to our next topic. Matt, I know Tether did just come out and announce something significant for Bitcoin. They're purchasing more Bitcoin with their profits. What info do you have on Tether?
Yeah, with Tether, so the company behind the largest stablecoin out there on the market currently, they announced or revealed in an attestation earlier this month that they are holding a significant amount of Bitcoin on their books at the moment. And then about a week later, they came out and announced that on an ongoing basis, they're going to commit to purchasing as much as, or continue to purchase Bitcoin. How much? It's going to be as high as 15% of their net operating profits. Given it's a stablecoin issuer, their operational expenses aren't that high. But I guess there's some forecasts out there and whatnot about how much Bitcoin this is going to be. I think that my takeaway really from what I've seen is it'll be a meaningful, buy side demand, but it won't be anything, huge or like enormous that it will like immediately drive up the price of BTC. We still didn't get an answer really. I think Nick and I talked about this. The main thing I was looking for when they revealed their Bitcoin holdings was some more information about whether they've accumulated all that BTC, or how long they've been accumulating it for, because it was a very large amount, a bit above 50,000 BTC, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I actually did reach out to the CTO, because he was replying to some tweets, or the CEO, I think, of Tether, an executive of Tether. I can't remember the exact title, and they didn't reply to me. And I saw some other people trying to get the same information, and all of those were unresponded to, or didn't go without a response. So we do have that information that we didn't get, but it's still bullish news ultimately. But yeah, at the end of the day, nothing that'll really, I think, greatly impact the price of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think I always still worry about the ambiguity of Tether and their regulatory clarity and all of this sort of stuff. So I'm like, okay, thank you for buying Bitcoin. Thank you for helping the rest of the crypto community out. I hope you still survive in the long term. Tether's, that gray dog in the corner. Anyway, we'll move on. Nick, I know Ledger recently came out with some news, and the crypto community isn't quite happy with this. But I know there needs to be some clarification on this. So what did Ledger release, Nick?
Yeah, so Ledger pretty much created a big fireball of discussion in the community that caused a lot of, a lot of negatives, about Ledger. Essentially, they're just trying to create some sort of backup of your Ledger device and your secret recovery phrase. So if you do lose it, that you'll be able to get it back. It's something called like social recovery, and it's becoming more popular, especially in Ethereum wallets. And it's just for those people who want that added safety net of, maybe losing your keys or losing your Ledger and sort of being stuck and lost your Bitcoin, as there's been countless people who have had the same experience. The issue here is that it was the way they went about it. And so what Ledger will be doing is that they will be breaking up your seed phrase and your secret recovery and your backup into multiple different parts and sending it to different custodians. So this created a bit of an issue because, a lot of the reason why people were really wanting to have a hardware wallet was because of this safety and the security that nobody can hold your crypto or touch your crypto. So they come out, and maybe it was a communication issue, but there still remains significant ambiguity about how Ledger is working with their hardware wallet and this phrase. So from what I saw in the market, that it's not anything to worry about right now in terms of, your Ledger keys all of a sudden compromised. But perhaps if you're somebody who is a bit more on the safe side, it's probably something to not update the firmware for the moment and wait for further clarification from Ledger. Because I think for my interpretation, you just have to trust Ledger as well for what they're saying is how they're backing up that seed phrase, how their device works as well. There's a significant amount of trust, you're placing in Ledger, that they're being truthful about how all that operates. So a lot of confusion. I'm not sure if you guys got any more takes, but I'm still sitting on the fence and waiting to hear back more, because of course Ledger is closed source compared to open source competitors such as Trezor, which may, have a bit more confidence that any bugs or any malicious code can be sort of found out, because at the moment you're unsure, if that happens with Ledger.
Yeah, that's right. When you have a Ledger account, when you have a Ledger device, it's all closed source. So the company only knows the code, no one else. So no one can really audit it. But I'm going to pass it to you, Matt. What do you think about the current Ledger situation? The community is upset. It goes against the ethos of decentralization. What are your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, I think a big takeaway for me was, ultimately, like, there is no perfect hardware wallet solution out there, or no perfect like cold storage solution. They all sort of come with risks, and I think people, at the end of the day, the community had a lot more learnings about the risks involved with hardware wallets as a result of this episode with Ledger, which ultimately was a good thing. Personally, I'm still trusting Ledger. I think there's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of incentives why they wouldn't betray your trust. Like, obviously they still could in an extreme scenario. But ultimately, I think another lesson was sort of people coming up with their own understanding or their own, I think,
conclusion
of themselves as well. Like, how much risk do you want to take on when you're storing your private keys? Like, are you comfortable with this amount of risk? I saw a lot more questions about that, like being asked openly, like last week, which was really good. But at the end of the day, probably my takeaway is that there's always an element of trust with there. And unfortunately, like, I see what Ledger's trying to do. I think, as Nick said, like if you're talking about ways to lose your cryptocurrency, they're sort of targeting the number one cause of people losing access to cryptocurrency is poor sort of, losing their piece of paper that they wrote down their phrase on, or they trick themselves and can't actually remember how to access their own, seed phrase. Like, that is still by far like the number one way people lose cryptocurrencies. Obviously, we got scams and all that. It gets all in the headlines, but at the end of the day, I would struggle to see how that is larger than people just actually, screwing it up themselves in terms of, managing their own keys. So, I can see what Ledger's trying to do here, but yeah, it was a lot of just confusion. And as Nick said, it was, it really fired up the community in many ways. And I think we did post about it on Collective Shift to sort of, try to at least stick to the facts and clear things up as best we could, knowing that Ledger still is yet to sort of confirm absolutely everything. So yeah, we might link to that post as well below for members watching this on the platform.
Yeah, well said, man. I did read that post. It was pretty good. And I agree with you there that, the Ledger company is going to have a niche of people who need this service. They can't do security by themselves. They might need an extra hand. And those people will be happy to sign up for this. It just depends on what the rest of the crypto community want as well.
It's also $10 a month. That's the thing that I, as well, it's like
a subscription.
Yeah. Which I guess you got to pay for like all the infrastructure to support the KYC as well.
Makes sense. Yeah. Right. We'll move on to our next topic, which is, Nick, you'll be taking this one, my friend. So Visa has recently come out with a post talking about account abstraction. Now, this is going into the Ethereum ecosystem. It gets a bit complicated here, but Nick, our resident researcher, is going to break it down for us. Tell us a little bit more about account abstraction.
So at a high level, account abstraction is the way that you separate your control when you go to sign your MetaMask wallet or your web wallet to, its private key and the way that interaction happens. So at the moment, there's sort of a lot of, it's really tough to use because you have to do repeated signs. If you want to play a game, you want to do an action, unless you, sign it, that you can, sign it indefinitely, which can add security risks. And that puts your other cryptocurrency at risk too, depending on what you're signing it to. So account abstraction tries to simplify the user experience of, engaging with crypto and with wallets and with different applications in the space, so that if you do want to play a game, you don't have to send multiple signatures or sign your wallet a heap of times. And it also separates different accounts, so that if you want to give permission to one game or one online application, you can only give them away a certain amount of your assets or permissions. So the whole goal is just to make the user experience easier. And why this is really important is because we saw the likes of Visa that are conducting account abstraction testing on an Ethereum testnet. So they come out with a blog post talking about why they think account abstraction could be useful. And it builds on other blogs that Visa have actually put out in the last couple of months that we've been following a lot on this pod and filling in members about. Is they are really looking at Ethereum and these public blockchains and testing them out. And they even noted things about account abstraction in the last few months, because all about talking about how to do auto payments with Ethereum, for example. So that's a really practical example of what account abstraction could enable. And I think that's what Visa are looking at. So really cool to see massive network like Visa, deploying what's called this Paymaster smart contract on Ethereum. So really interesting. I'm really keen to see. They just keep on building out more and more blogs talking about Ethereum, and even now going the extra layer to, deploy on these and have a play around.
Yeah, it's very interesting that they're not really deploying on other smart contract platforms, right? They're not going to Solana, they're not going to Near. Everything is on Ethereum, which, over a Collective Shift, we do try and keep everyone on top of Ethereum. And I think that's where the action is going to be for a long time anyway. Super interesting. I know account abstraction is going to make the user experience much, much smoother. But let's keep talking about Ethereum, my friends. Let's talk about the Ethereum client issue that just happened. I know there was probably some information released as a post-mortem. Matt, have you got info on this?
Yeah, Lee, I think we talked about this a bit last week, but it was fresh in the news that when we did talk about it. In the time since, there's been as you said, a post-mortem released by Off-Chain Labs, really just explaining what happened, what the effects were, what the result was, and then what the fixes are. So we will link to that below in the show notes, of course, but. Yeah, to really try to simplify it, the Ethereum blockchain, for two sort of periods that were, rather short, all things considered, the blockchain was struggling to finalize transactions. So users who were using the chain weren't overly affected, like very, very small amount of a negative effect for users, but most of the time, they had probably the perception that the chain was running as per normal. But when a blockchain can't finalize, that's really bad for a number of reasons to do with security and trust that all the transactions are actually getting through. So there has been a fix. Probably the most important update here is that there has been a fix. So the clients that were really struggling and what ultimately was the cause of Ethereum not being able to finalize, those clients have all deployed sort of upgrades. And they fixed the sort of the error or the cause of the issue, which was to do with attestations. We kind of talked about them in the case with Tether, but there's also attestations in blockchains like Ethereum where, all the different nodes or, people running validators, they sort of, attest to, basically the proof of these transactions being valid. And the blockchain sort of takes that into consideration when it is achieving consensus. So all of these clients, or the ones that were affected in this recent, 2 episodes, have sort of now all been upgraded, and the chain's now, going along smoothly for now. So if things, really do get out of hand again, we'll definitely be updating everyone on this because of how, I suppose, important Ethereum is in terms of, it is like, the largest smart contract blockchain out there. So definitely, if there is issues with it, it warrants discussion. But for now, it looks like things have sort of settled down.
Yeah, and I always think about it this way: Ethereum isn't complete. It's a program that still keeps running there, and it's going to have problems every so often. And what I like seeing is that the developers and outside people are still able to come in and fix things and patch things and make it work again, which makes me really bullish on the entire community on Ethereum. Not so much on other chains, but yeah, I'm super happy with that. And just to know that they're there, that they're fixing it, that they know this is an ongoing issue. But yeah, we'll move on to some more positive news, still based on Ethereum, but we're talking about NFTs this time. So Matt, I know Pudgy Toys just came out. Can you give us the brief on Pudgy Toys, please? Are they fluffy? Are they squishy? What's happening?
So Pudgy Penguins, a collection, in the Ethereum NFT space, they launched a line of toys and different plushies on predominantly through Amazon, but then some physical retailers as well. Actually, in Australia, was one of the first stores that they launched them in EB Games. They had really good success in selling in the first sort of 48 hours or so. We might link to it as well, just the Amazon link for all the different products that they are selling. I think they said they've got children's books coming out soon, as well as some other sort of things they've been cooking. I think there's 8,888 NFTs in this collection. So some of the holders are able to sort of license out their pudgies. So if they are the plushie, every plushie, I suppose, in the collection or in the sort of lines that you can buy in the shops or on Amazon, every one of those is actually sort of an NFT, and it's using, I suppose, the owners sort of licensing that out to the company to be able to make that toy. And I think they do get a very small cut of the revenue. I don't think that's been shared exactly how much that is at the moment. But yeah, it's sort of like, why does it matter? I think it matters really just because NFTs to date a lot of them haven't really hit the mark in terms of what they promised to deliver. that execution risk is sort of proved to be like very, I suppose, necessary in your assessment of a collection, because a lot of them just haven't executed due to varying reasons, such as available capital, the talent, the experience probably being a big one, market conditions, things like that. But Pudgy Penguins is probably one of the rare ones that's actually, doing what it's promising and executing on promises and actually launching its own, physical product line in this sense, not just something that's digital or a digital community where a lot of NFT collections, really build a bit of software, but ultimately a lot of them are just copying each other. So what I like about Pudgy Penguins, I don't own any, but what I do like about it is that it is sort of, pushing the boundaries in terms of what an NFT collection, can do.
Yeah, I just add in there too that it's about, I think, the brand, because one of the biggest things about these NFTs is that you perhaps have some IP, or you got some sort of authority, and you got this sort of value over something. But for that to have any value, for any IP to have any value, you need a brand, and you need people to buy it, and for some people to be interested in it. And so this is what's an interesting case study, that we're seeing one of the first real examples of NFT first, and then creating this brand and creating toys and different lines. So they're trying to go after actually creating an identity and a brand out there in the market, which I'd love to see if that, gets any traction, or whether a lot of those first sales are just from, NFT, native people who would, or even NFT owners of the Pudgy Penguins who just want to get their own Pudgy.
Yeah, it's true. There'll be some collectors out there. Imagine if one of these Web3 NFT physical items turn into like the next Beanie Babies or the next collectible item. People are going to go crazy for that sort of stuff. But yeah, so I had another thought about, regulation for these NFTs. It's very good to see that they're going ahead with this, and other people can't go ahead because of regulatory non-clarity, which brings me back to my next item, which is about regulatory news. So I know we have an enforcement action that recently came out. The SEC went ahead and told Grayscale, who are trying to file a FIL coin, which is an FIL coin trust. And they said, hey, no, we think Filecoin is a security. You guys better watch out. Did you guys happen to catch this story?
Yeah, I saw this one. And it just goes to the same, I guess, hostility of the SEC, but it's also quite interesting that it is Filecoin. So it's like, which cryptocurrency are they going after? And of course, Filecoin had this ICO, which raised serious amount of money. But then at the end of the day, I think Filecoin in its current state now, and its utility, I guess, in the network, it's seeing a lot of upgrades. Is kind of interesting to me that they're going after Filecoin, and which is probably one of the cryptocurrencies that have real inherent utility, like as a commodity and amongst its ecosystem, because you need it fundamentally for in Filecoin. So it's fascinating. We'll continue to see more about this and exactly what Grayscale does in response. No doubt that they'll probably fight it, and just another example of the continued hostility with these US regulators really going after different types of cryptocurrencies, and ones that I didn't expect them to go after. First, we saw Algorand talking about being a security, and now Filecoin. So it's really some of the ones with more utility are the ones that are also really being hammered at.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear. If some of these bigger utility coins get labeled as securities, then what are the smaller coins going to be? That's really going to up the risk curve there. But speaking more on regulation, I know the CFTC chair, they also came out and said DeFi crypto exchanges may be regulated. Now, this is not something that the crypto community want, but I think it's going to come sooner or later. What do you guys think?
This is one that I've actually been speaking about quite a lot. I know, Matt, you've probably been always hearing me talk about this issue of like DeFi and how they're inevitably going to be regulated pretty heavily in terms of just of just anti-money laundering policies like KYC. A lot of the things that traditional exchanges have to deal with, that's the one thing I've always been really concerned about, is how DeFi is going to respond to this. Because this could really increase the amount of compliance they need, which then increases the costs dramatically. If they have to enforce all these really hard rules, although they could be positioned to do them much better than traditional finance because it's all on chain, and they'll be able to hopefully create if this is the way things are going with different digital identities, possibly this could be achieved much easier on chain to be regulated and like to enforce these compliance measures. But yeah, I'm really concerned to see what the CFTC said, and just expecting more of this action to come, and really fascinated to see how DeFi goes. And this is going to be another slog in terms of, we're going to see stablecoin regulation. We're going to see even how the market is structured, more guidance on what's a security, what's not. But then we're also going to have this whole kettle of fish about how to regulate DeFi, which inevitably is going to come in Europe as well, because Europe just passed what's called MiCA, which is like one of the first digital asset frameworks to be involved, but that did not include DeFi. And they're already talking about MiCA 2.0, which will focus on DeFi. So this is kind of look ahead to what I think is going to be coming in the next 12, 24 months, when the focus is now on DeFi.
Yeah, and don't worry, guys, everyone listening, if you're listening on the podcast or listening on Collective Shift platform, we will keep you updated if there's anything we think you need to know. Now, I wonder, Matt or Nick, do you guys use Binance? I know I use it myself. I was affected by this. Yeah, you guys?
I do. Yeah, I do have an account with them, and saw, maybe Leon, what the announcement was last week.
Yeah, sure. So Binance came out and says, hey guys, we can't accept PayID payments anymore. So they can't accept, it's PayID is a really great service for people to easily transfer fiat from your bank account to Binance. And, the company behind them came out and says, no, we can't do this anymore. And so Binance is having to say, no, we got to stop this. So if you're a Binance user, watch out for this new change. It might not affect you. You might go to a different exchange. It's all okay. It doesn't mean Binance is going out of business at all. Keep cool. It's all good. And keeping on top of last regulatory news, we have Ripple as well that just came out with an SEC verdict. Well, sorry, not came out with an SEC verdict. It might be coming out with an SEC verdict. We've been waiting for this for a very, very long time.
Yeah, this is one that's going to be interesting to see, the big verdict, because it has massive implications on the industry. I think the major point here was just that they're going to come out and I think release some more of these information and notes to help make this decision, and a lot of incentives, I think, on ETH and how ETH was interpreted. So we're going to see some more of this information come out, which will either be good for Ripple or be bad. I think the market's mixed at the moment.
And let's continue with some altcoin news. We've got two big topics here. There is a proposal for Lido DAO. Do you guys know what's happening here, Matt?
Not for this one in particular. I think maybe you know about the LDO.
Yeah, this one with Lido. They're just I just saw somebody on the forum there. It's kind of a good example to keep looking at these forums, because some of the best information comes out of forums. But Lido here, some talk about increasing the utility for Lido tokens. So very early stages for this one, but one to really keep an eye on, because I know we cover Lido quite closely. So that's when I think if more information comes out, we'll keep everyone updated. And
that makes sense. I saw the token performing quite well in the last couple of weeks. I mean, even in the last couple of months, we've seen this. So I wonder if some people knew this was coming, and, token buybacks always help the price go up. Anyway, we'll move on to Axie. Axie did just come up to the App Store. This also did have a giant price wick, about like a 5 to 10% price wick or something, but it's way back down to where it was before. So I'm not going to be downloading this app myself. I have no time. Matt, I think you guys are way too busy to also play Axie Infinity.
Yeah, I saw this one, and it was a very bull market-esque sort of price reaction, but then we were quickly reminded of the bear market when everyone took profits, and it basically round-tripped, very, very soon, like after that, maybe within the next 1 or 2 days. But good to see, a version of Axie Infinity. I think it's, people are sort of calling it a light version, available in certain countries, but the big news really was Apple sort of approving it to, be on their app store. Like, there isn't really that much NFT functionality, but it's a step in the right direction. And I think we saw Uniswap also approved like their wallet. Again, sort of a light version of Uniswap's app approved about a month ago by Apple, which Uniswap and Apple had sort of been at a bit of a stalemate for a while. So we've seen Apple very, very slowly start to warm up to crypto apps, but they're basically like very light is probably a good way to describe them.
Mm-hmm. Well said, man. And with that said, we'll start moving on to the end of our show. Let's go to the things, the segment where we look at things for listeners to look out to. This is the Collective Shift team. We keep an ear to the ground and we tell you what we're looking forward to. So myself, one of them is I'm going to be reading the Neon EVM white paper. This is, now don't get upset at me, you ETH maxis. This is about trying to scale Ethereum using Solana as the settlement and consensus mechanism behind it. I'm looking forward to reading it. I probably won't understand 50% of it, but that's what I'm looking forward to this week. So I'm going to leave the link of that in the description. I wonder, do you guys have anything you're looking forward to this week?
Yeah, just with one that I probably just wanted to share was maybe just encouraging any Hotbit users out there to just log into your account and just see the announcement that the exchange is going to be closing down pretty soon. I think they just announced that in the last couple of days by the time this recording comes out. I think technically it's up until June 21 that you can withdraw, but yeah, I'd strongly encourage any users who have funds on there to do so basically as soon as you can. I'm not trying to instill panic in you, but it would be highly encouraged to do it as soon as possible, just for safety and that reassurance. But yeah, it's an exchange that, I'd call it mid-tier at best, but it has been around for over 5 years. It's probably in the same category as, the likes of Bitmart, Albank, those sort of ones. I reckon like you probably got KuCoin and Huobi are probably like mid-tier ones. I'd probably have them a tiny bit below them, but just another sort of cleansing out in this sort of, crypto winter.
Yeah, that's right. I did read their posts and it made me laugh. They said we were so proud. We're the first to list SHIB token.
Really?
Like, oh, guys, yeah. I'm like, guys, it's not something to be proud of. You guys, come on. Anyway, so we'll move on. Thanks for that, mate. And we'll move on to our last segment of the show. Thank you very much for watching. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you do leave a like and subscribe. What we're going to talk about is the rapid fire. Anything that we think is overappreciated or underappreciated in the market. Matt, I think you have one thing about Optimism.
Yeah, just with they're announcing last week, so I think a lot of people missed this. They confirmed the date where they're going to deploy their biggest upgrade, probably their only upgrade for the year, or their major upgrade, and that's Bedrock, finally coming out. Really short. It'll nearly half the transaction fees on Optimism, and this is separate, importantly, from the major Ethereum upgrade coming later this year, hopefully, that'll significantly cut the costs of using every layer 2 solution, so long as they're ready to be compatible. So yeah, Optimism, June the 6th is the date for Bedrock going live.
Awesome. You guys look forward to that. And for my one, something that I think was a little bit underappreciated in the market was Tornado Cash. It recently got exploited. I wonder if you guys remember Tornado Cash, the founders, the guy that got put in jail for creating a smart contract, for God's sake. Now, he did get released from jail, but the Tornado Cash protocol did get exploited, specifically the governance contract. Some guy came in, he said, hey guys, approve this vote. It went in, and in that vote was actually on-chain instructions to kind of print a whole bunch of Torn tokens, which is the native token of Tornado Cash. So you end up getting about 10K, which is, not a lot in crypto terms, but the basics takeaway is that this is supposed to be a security and a privacy protocol, right? But these guys were able to be exploited, which means to say no one in the market is safe, okay? You should have your tokens and you should keep them in cold storage. Nothing is safe out there. Just to give you a bit of fear mongering there. Nick, what do you have, my friend?
Sorry about that. Mine's going on from Matt about Optimism, because for Coinbase's L2 to launch, they actually need this Optimism upgrade to go through. Because they're building on similar infrastructure to Optimism and on this, on OP stack. So I'm really keen to see an announcement, hopefully soon, from Coinbase on their next steps or possible roadmap in ramping up their testnet as they look towards a mainnet. I saw some hinting going around by some people at Coinbase Cloud and working on the different Coinbase infrastructure there. So I think we should hear something in the coming weeks about a roadmap for Coinbase, hopefully.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right, my friends, that leaves us to the end of the Collective Shift show. That's a wrap for this week. If you're looking for more insights, see our revamped Weekly Shift newsletter. Provides free weekly market insights every Friday. Subscribe at collectiveshift.io/newsletter. That's collectiveshift.io/newsletter.